both been slammed busy. I know even Judy, even coming up to, was booked all the way up till 2 p.m. getting here today. It's just like, go, go, go. There was a lawsuit that was just with the Gallagher lawsuit, and I think many of us thought that the push from Gavin Newsom would slow down. That's obviously not the case. What's going on, Peggy? What's the deal here?
The deal is that criminals like to break the law. And that's why we have prisons, to put those criminals in so that they can no longer do those criminal activities. So it's no surprise that the government is a crime syndicate, at least the government in California, and it looks like in many of these states that we're witnessing. I hear from thousands of healthy Americans, and I'm so happy to see you here, everybody. Thank you so much. We had Beach Church this morning, and many of you were there and then followed along here. And what our wonderful producer Andrew is speaking about is that some months ago, in fact it was in November, it was on my sister's birthday, a very good birthday present, there was a court ruling, and remember, courts do not make laws, right? Judges don't make law, although they try to in some cases. They affirm and they uphold the law, and they adjudicate or resolve disputes. And the dispute at hand that Andrew is speaking about is from Assemblyman Kevin Kiley and Assemblyman James Gallagher, who are both licensed attorneys, by the way, and very well educated in the law, and they brought forth a lawsuit against the governor, and the claim was about the mail-in ballots. But the beautiful thing about this ruling, and I have it on the website, and my power bulldog attorney Jim here vets everything I put on the website, and or these legal documents anyway, the legal information. This lawsuit was ruled to say that the governor has no authority to issue any further executive orders or emergency orders that either create law or amend or suspend statutory law or that create legislative policy. What that means is what I've been saying all these months. Please repeat after me. No governor can make a law, right? No governor can make a law. And this was ruled and reaffirmed in this court ruling, which then was appealed, which you may say, oh no, it's been on appeal. We want that to stand. So there is a stay. A stay is like pressing pause, and that ruling is not final until after the appeal. The beautiful thing about the appeal is that these the plaintiffs, who are Gallagher and Kiley, are now going to push for the complete suspension, and the ideal would be to rule that the emergency order law in the California statutes is completely unconstitutional. We recommend everybody have this ruling. Any business owners, you should put this ruling on your window. You should have it in your packet of material. It's a good talking point, even though it does have a stay, which is a pause. It still means that it was that ruling was given, and I think there is some strength and importance there in educating people on that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that, Peggy. It's, the more that we know and understand how these laws are made and what our constitutional freedoms are, really give us that knowledge, to push back and know what we're dealing with. As we're putting the event together and really understanding the push to do this so quickly was really the COVID vaccine rollout, right? It's all happening now across the United States and around the world. And a lot of questions have come up around why is President Trump rah-rahing and cheerleading this vaccine? And I want to direct this to Dr. Judy. He's talking about this as a medical miracle and really out in front, pushing, get the vaccine. I just want to get your take on what you think President Trump's doing that for, and where you think we're going.
Well, number one, he's been totally lied to, as have 5 five of the last generations of presidents, from Ronald Reagan to the present day, been lied to by only one man about the so-called truth in science and medicine, and that pathological liar and should be convicted criminal, again, people who are above the law, Peggy, is Tony Fauci. And so, yes, hopefully one day he'll be locked up and made to suffer for the tens of millions of people worldwide he's killed with his plandemics, throughout the world, and his vaccines, which make many millions, if not billions of dollars for him and his cronies, including Bill Gates, who calls himself a philanthropist, and he's making 10 times or 20 times the profit on these vaccines. And once he figured this out, he got out of the computer industry where he couldn't get the viruses out of his own computers. He knows absolutely nothing about medicine, public health, has no qualifications whatsoever, and yet these two men stood there with the World Health Organization, the WHO, and literally have changed all of science in the last 50 years, and again, from HIV to Ebola, Zika, bird flu, swine flu, and now the worst, the detonate switch for all the vaccine injured is COVID-19. So with respect to President Trump, he tried. He brought in Scott Atlas, who was telling him the truth, and the American public is like, we want Tony Fauci. So, just like God, he gave them over to what they asked for. And unfortunately, many innocent people will die, and that's why we're here with tonight with such urgency and pulled this together. And so, there's no basis in law. As my friend Peggy Hall just said, that and there's no basis in science. And yet they do everything. And I found out with our first book, Plague, which was published at the end of 2014, as Andrew said, I thought it was all about the science. And you won't even find the word vaccine in there. I was worried about a contaminated blood supply with lots of different animal viruses and human viruses from the aborted fetal tissues, the cell lines that have been used since 1960s in our vaccines, in all our vaccines. And when Tony Fauci stood next to Ronald Reagan in 1986 and scared him, we won't make your vaccines anymore, Big Pharma and Tony Fauci scared Ronald Reagan into signing what he called the unconstitutional National Vaccine Injury Compensation Act, which was an act which has paid out more than $4 billion of taxpayer money since that day, since the late 80s when it was enacted. But in that time, we've increased vaccines from 8 shots over, the first 18 years of life to more than 72 shots of 20 different antigens before a child is 5 years old, starting within hours of birth. We've literally destroyed the health of our children at the hands of Tony Fauci. So what President Trump is thinking, what can he think when everybody keeps begging for this criminal, no matter how much the lies, every single week? He says things which in 2005 he said the exact opposite. Hydroxychloroquine he called a vaccine and a cure for coronaviruses in 2005. In 2020, he told President Trump, who tried to get hydroxychloroquine for everybody. It was on the WHO, the WHO's list of essential medicine. He called it anecdotal, which means storytelling. Well, 40 years of storytelling should have told him, and he did the studies back in 2005 and published them then. So from everything from the mask, it's not President Trump's fault, it's we the people who tell the president he serves us, and we're not telling him the message he needs to hear. We need to tell him no more warp speed, no more injecting the most vulnerable, which is who the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, that criminal organization worldwide at the Centers for Dishonesty and Corruption. And these crimes have been perpetrated for 4 or 5 decades on the most vulnerable. So who's the first in line to get this vaccine? Oh, the people in nursing home, the first responders, the military, the people the mentally disabled, people of color. So the NIH said, oh, we're so worried about people of color because, blacks, Hispanics have 2 to 4 times the risk of getting COVID-19 from a SARS-CoV-2 infection. The virus doesn't know if you're a black man, a white man, a Hispanic, a gay man, a Democrat, or a Republican. I guarantee you it's the immune system. We strengthen the immune system. He's covered that up for 4 decades. It's Tony Fauci, and President Trump has no choice if we don't tell him, stop it and stop it now.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Thank you for that, Dr. Judy. It's crazy to me too that, most kids aren't even in school and they're forcing kids to get a flu shot right now.
Yeah.
I wanted to